Perfecto. So, what are the top secret ways or reasons why your credit has been denied? And I put credit in air quotes due to the fact that when it comes to your credit, in many cases, it's really called the consumer report. So we got to get good about our verbiage. We have to get good about, the things that we call these entities due to the fact that if you call it the wrong thing, then what happens is they don't have to respond in a certain way because you addressed them incorrectly. It's like if somebody called you a different name other than your actual name, you're not going to answer. So if you call them a different name other than their actual name, why should they answer? So they're actually consumer reporting companies. And when I say they, I'm talking about like Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. All of those are consumer reporting companies, but they're not the only one that's a consumer reporting company. And these ones that I'm about to go over today may be some of the very reasons why you or someone may have been denied or declined when it comes to your, I say credit report, but it's actually the consumer report, because it's the consumer laws that are in place that actually protect you from certain entities that may be taking advantage or performing unlawfully or having inaccurate data or just being a little loose with your information, leading to things such as identity theft and your information being shared with any and everybody that you did not authorize to have access to your information. So you really want to understand the importance of using the term consumer reporting due to the fact that that's what actually protects you, the consumer law. So this PDF that I'm going through right now, a portion of it is available in your back office, but it's just the older version. It's the 2020 version. This right here is actually the 2024 version of this, and this is available to everybody. But I want you to take the mindset of what you know about MyEcon and the My Credit System, the DIY program, and apply to this because you have an upper hand. You have access to letters. You have access to a process, an order of operation, a way of doing things that can bring this to life. So what are we diving into? This is a list of the consumer reporting companies, and this is provided by the CFPB, which is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They are one of the entities that in many cases, they apply extra pressure to certain companies and sometimes even the other credit reporting agencies who may be having information that's inaccurate, outdated, unverifiable. Sometimes you can go higher up above them and get the CFPB involved. And some people have had some level of success. Another level to that is the FTC. But this specifically came from the CFPB. So drop some fives in the chat if you can see my screen. Drop some fives in the chat if you can see my screen. All right, perfect. I see at least 1 5, so we're good to go. Now, as you can see, it's a breakdown of what to expect in this form, but I just want to highlight a few things and then we'll get out of here because I really want you to understand that it's certain entities, certain companies, certain things that may be exposed to people who may be running your credit, and as a result, it may be hurting you or causing you or someone to be declined or denied. Right here in this introduction, it says below is a list of consumer reporting companies updated for 2024. Consumer reporting companies collect information and provide reports about you to other companies/users. These users buy these reports to inform decisions about providing you with credit, employment, residential rental, housing, insurance, and then other decision-making situations. So you got to understand, information is for sale. So a lot of times if product is free, you are the product, meaning that they're just collecting your data so they can sell your data. And if they sell your data, they make money. That's the business model that they're in. Meanwhile, you use their platform free of charge. One example is something like a Credit Karma. Yes, it's free, but they're also collecting data and, that's their business model. And then they have other avenues where they're able to make money as well. When you think about it from a social media angle, social media is free. Facebook is free. These platforms are free, but your habits are shared publicly on Facebook. A lot of your information, a lot of things that you do, a lot of the things that you're interested in, a lot of your contact information is shared on these sites, and they're able to monetize that information. So you got to understand that if a product is free, then in many cases you are the product, because information and data is very, very valuable. So that's why I said the users buy these reports to inform decisions about providing you with credit, employment, residential, rental housing, insurance, and in other decision-making situations. The list below includes 3 largest nationwide consumer reporting companies, which you all should know. I want to see you drop that in the chat. What are the main 3 consumer reporting companies? Usually we call it something else, but this is kind of somewhat of a trick question. And several others that focus on certain market areas, consumer segments, and types of users. This list is not all inclusive, but there are many companies on it. We provide you with tips so you can determine which segments and companies might be important to you. This list also makes it easier for you to take advantage of your legal rights to obtain the information in your consumer reports and dispute suspected inaccuracies in your reports with companies as needed. So this is a decent list, but they said it's not all inclusive because there are other ones out there, and then there are some that continue to pop up. So who can see your consumer reports? That's the question. Consumer reporting companies must follow legal restrictions, but generally can provide consumer reports and risk scores to an array of businesses, including lenders, including those that offer credit cards, home, payday, personal, title, auto, including auto leasing, student loans, security deposit, financing, lease guarantees on home rentals, and buy now, pay later products, which is a new one somewhat. It's a lot of buy now, pay later products that are out there, and they're definitely collecting a lot of data as well. Even PayPal has a version of the buy now, pay later model, but they're able to use your data to determine whether or not you can qualify for either of the things in the list. Who else uses your data? Employers and volunteer organizations, pre-employment screening, and ongoing employee monitoring. And sometimes when the employee may monitor you, and it may be the very reason why you didn't get that promotion, or some people have gotten fired. It's historical data and records of proof of that, and people not getting jobs due to their credit, because they're looking at it like, if a person is not taking care of their own responsibilities, how can we trust them? In some cases, that's how they're looking at it. Now, sometimes they may use it maliciously, but if you understand how to control your consumer reports, then you are in the driver's seat. You can control the things that, that can keep you from being prejudged by your consumer report. Government agencies also use these to determine eligibility for government assistance. Landlords and residential real estate management companies for short and long-term residential properties. They do this in the form of tenant screening or tenant screening. Banks, credit unions, payment processors, and retail stores that accept personal checks do this in the form of check screening. So you can see a couple of different categories of entities that may be interested in your data. Now, how is this important, and how is this one of the things that may have been a reason that someone or maybe yourself was denied or declined for something? Well, each category has entities that's holding on to specific information that if you know where they was holding on to that information, you may be able to do something about it so that you're not caught up in any situation. So companies that market and sell certain products and services, specifically lower to income consumers, subprime credit applicants, such as companies providing short-term lending and rent-to-own lending businesses, among others, they also use this info. Debt buyers, debt collectors, they use this information. Insurance companies, health, life, property insurance screening, they use this information. I know you probably got things in the mail and you're wondering, how did they get your information? They're using these companies that have your data, and sometimes them sending you something in the mail is pretty accurate. Like, they know that you're a good fit for their product. So they do different forms of screening. Telecommunication and utility companies, the mobile phone, pay TV, electric, gas, water. Retail stores for product return, fraud, and abuse screening, as well as retail stores that offer financing, such as appliance, rent-to-own businesses, among others. Gaming establishments and casinos that extend credit to consumers and or accept personal checks. They're using your information. So these are things to be mindful of. Even the casino is extending credit to people who might have that habit or addiction to gambling, even if it's money that they don't currently have. So this is a predatory game, to say the least. A lot of times they take advantage of people just due to their lack of knowledge, using their info, and then the name of that game is they just want to profit. You just have to be on the upper hand of knowing that they're doing it so you can be in control and, and understand how to operate and navigate and eliminate whatever it is they're trying to do. So you can get rejected without warning. With the exception of employment screening, users of consumer reports generally do not warn you in advance if they are about to take an adverse action against you based in whole or in part on information in your consumer reports. In many instances, adverse actions notifications are provided after the fact, say when you have already been rejected for the loan, residential, rental property, or auto lease. So, in other words, you can be rejected without warning depending on the situation. So, they got different examples and things of that nature. Now, the good news is that you have a meaningful role to play to help ensure your data is accurate and complete. So, it's a 3-step process that they're talking about and highlighting. And if you have access to the back office, the My Credit system, the do it yourself, you know of a process that can work as well. That same process can be applied to this as well. So, basically, they're talking about, hey, first step, requesting your consumer reports. Second step, review your reports closely. Third step, disputing suspected inaccuracies as needed. So, we go in deep on that a lot of times of pulling your reports, knowing how to locate errors, and then disputing it the right way. So these are some of the things that they lay out on this PDF. And these are things that you can mainly do, or most of the time people do it with the main 3: Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. But this can also be done with the other consumer reporting agencies as well. And I won't go into reading that verbatim, but you understand. Step 1 is pulling your report. Many times you can get it free. Reading the report, understanding what errors and accuracies, things that may be on there that may be hindering or hurting your score. And then dispute. You have the right to request correction to your report, because if it's an error, if it's inaccurate, if it's outdated, if it's unverifiable, then the consumer laws say that they are supposed to remove it. It's not a matter of if it was yours, if it belonged to you per se. It's just a matter of, are their records intact? And if not, then that increases the chance of having those things removed. So the CFPB, they also allow you to file complaints. And that's another part of the steps in our DIY process, that if you get to a certain place in the process, you may need to file a complaint on a certain company, a collection company, a creditor that may not be doing what they need to do in terms of removing things that you have pretty much shown that they couldn't verify, things that, errors and inaccuracies that they did not get removed. So just kind of keep that in mind. Now, let's dive into some of the entities, and then we'll wrap this up. So, nationwide consumer reporting companies. These are the big 3. These are the main ones that most people know about. That's Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. The big nationwide providers of consumer reports. Now, most people know about the annual credit report, where you're able to pull your reports for free. It used to be you can only pull it annually. Then they changed it to you can pull it monthly. And I think it even went to weekly, if I'm not mistaken, just because there's so much information being exchanged that annually is too long when it comes to things that may show up on your credit report on a regular basis. So they moved it to monthly. Then they moved it to weekly. I'm not sure exactly where it's at right now, but these are the main 3 where you're able to pull your personal information. Now, with these consumer reports, it does not have the scores. I will say that. And that's okay, because the scores are based on the consumer report. So if you can clean up your consumer report, it will benefit the scores by default. So when you do get to a place that does have your scores, then it'll reflect in a positive fashion, because your consumer report got cleaned up. So we're not going to spend too much time talking about, the big 3. But annualcreditreport.com, if you don't know about that site, that's the site that allows you to pull your reports. It even has some phone numbers and things of that nature in terms of your reports, showing you how to freeze your reports if you needed to. Most of the time when you're going through the credit restoration process, you're not having to freeze the main 3. But if you don't want anybody trying to send you things to apply for, by all means, you can freeze it if you know you're not trying to apply for anything anytime soon. Now, employment screening, and this is starting to get into the nitty gritty of some of the secret ways or reasons why you may have got denied. Sometimes when people are applying for jobs, they may not get it and they may not realize why, even though they felt overqualified. It may be something that they discovered on your consumer report. So employment screening companies provide information such as credit history, employment, salary, and education and professional license verification to employers and others, including nonprofit volunteer organizations, and to government agencies, such as to verify employment, income, to determine eligibility for government assistance. They may also provide residential address history and social security number verification, criminal arrest and conviction information, as well as fingerprint information from state and federal criminal record databases, status on global watch lists, motor vehicle drivers record information, drug and alcohol testing, health screening info, nonprofit volunteer activity verification, etc. So, employment screening can include both pre-employment screening and ongoing workforce monitoring. Like we stated, sometimes they're monitoring your score ongoing, just like creditors, just like banks. They're trying to see if you still fit their ideal client or customer or consumer. Many employment screening companies won't have information on you unless you authorize an employer or other end user to obtain a report. In many cases, sometimes people unknowingly give them the ability to pull the reports just by, agreeing or accepting whatever it is that they offer, checked off a box that you didn't really thoroughly read. So a lot of times you just kind of get caught off guard and gave access to your information. But if possible, when you give your authorization, ask for the names of the employment screening company being used. Contact those reporting companies to fact check your reports. If the employer is checking your credit history in separate reports from one or all three of the nationwide providers of consumer reports listed above, request and review those reports as well. So any of these entities that's holding on to your information can be checked. They call it fact checking. You want to check for the inaccuracy, see if what they have is accurate. And in some cases, you can freeze some of these other entities as well. I know you know about freezing some of the main top four secondary credit or consumer reporting agencies, which we'll go over some of those in here as well. But some of the ones that you may not know about can also be addressed as well. So Accurate Background, this is a company that provides background screening services. This is their site, this is their number, and you may have some information that's on there that could have been something or you or someone that could have prevented you from getting that promotion, getting that job altogether. So sometimes you want to take care of these things because it may be something that's getting in the way. The company will provide you with one free credit report or free report if you request it, and if the company has a file on you. And even though it doesn't say you can't freeze the report, like if it doesn't give that detail, because as you'll see as I scroll down, some of them will give the specific detail that you can freeze the report. Even if it doesn't say it, sometimes you may just want to ask because it's a guaranteed no if you don't ask. So you just may want to see if that's something you can do, if this is something that you're interested in doing. Here's another employment screening company. ADP Screening and Selection Services provides background screening services. The company is a subsidiary of ADP LLC. And you see their information here. They give you a free report. Another one is Assurant, provides background screening services, pre and post hire searches, and workforce monitoring. Give you a free report as well, backgroundchecks.com. And this is a higher right company. So some of these companies are partners with one another, or they work with one another, or affiliates of one another as well. This company, they give you a free screening report if you request it as well. Blend Insights provides consumer permission, employment, income, bank asset verification information to lenders. You'll see specifically here where it says that you can freeze the report. Like I said, all of them won't say it, but this one says that you can freeze the report. But it's okay to ask the other ones if you feel like, okay, that may have been why I didn't get the promotion. Let me see if I freeze these entities or do these things, I can get these people out of my way. Because a lot of these entities are just middlemen. They're just sharing your data, selling your data, benefiting off of your data, and it's hindering you from making progress. It's hurting you from going to the next level in certain areas. Another entity, CCC Verify. Free report as well with them. Certify, spelled a little different. Free report. So all of these will give you free reports. Checker. Some of you may have heard or seen them. So if you look, all of these are still under the employment screening. It hasn't started a new category yet. All of these that you're looking at are still under the employment screening. Even Experian Verify has something that's employment screening related. Provides income and employment verification information to lenders, employment screeners, and social service agencies. All of them allow you to get a free report. This First Advantage Corporation allows you to freeze it based on what it says here. HireRight, that's that company that, was mentioned up above. InfoCubic, Intel Corp. So you see all of these are dealing with employment. So you never know what information of yours may be floating around because of these other consumer reporting entities that you might not have known of because you only knew about Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, and then of course LexisNexis, Innovis, CoreLogic, ARS, the ones that are the other top secondary entities. But some of these may be a hindrance to your progress as well. So social intelligence provides social media screening for employers. See, this is a big one because a lot of times people think, and a lot of times people used to say, "I just on social media, it ain't real." You better believe that they're paying attention to certain things on social media. It's crazy because it kind of limits freedom of speech to a degree if you're worried about certain things being screened. But that's the fact of the matter. So this company is providing social media screening for employers, powered by a team of FCRA trained analysts who can identify wholly human patterns like parody, context, sarcasm, so that nothing is misinterpreted or falsely attributed to an employment candidate. So this is something that can possibly get people to lose their job depending on what they say. Possibly get people to not get the job or the promotion, depending on what they say. Companies like this. And that data is huge because so many people are using it. So you just got to really be mindful of how you navigate on social media, whether it's a comment, whether it's a post. You got to be really mindful of these things because a lot of times people use these platforms loosely, not knowing the ramifications that can come from it. We do a lot of business on there. We're doing a lot of educating and things that we put out there. We don't mind being out massively to the public anyway. But just something you might want to make note of. So you might want to screenshot that site, get a familiarization with that site. Might even want to request a report, see what kind of information they have as well. And it says social intelligence has been acquired by Fama Technology. So whatever that is. And this is the new updated one. So this one might not be in your back office with the My Credit Kit or the My Credit system, because this is the new 2024 one. I'm not sure if this entity was on that one. So just kind of keep that in mind. Sterling provides background screening. The Work Number, another company, and it's dealing with Equifax Workforce Solution, formerly known as Taux Corporation, operates the Work Number. And they're connected to, it's a subsidiary of Equifax. You can freeze those reports. True Work, universal background screening. And all of those with just the employment. And I scrolled all the way down. What page is this? Page 20. That was just the employment. So it's a lot of entities who are looking at your information, dealing with things that may be work related, job related. And some of these companies may have inaccurate information, false information, unverifiable information that may have hindered you from doing something that you wanted to do. Just important to know. A lot of people want to know about the tenant screening because I've had different clients and they're like, "Hey, I'm not able to, qualify for this, for this property or this apartment. I need to get something removed in this area because when they screen, they're gonna see this eviction or whatever the case may be. It could be in this category. So, what is tenant screening? Tenant screening companies provide information such as credit history, eviction information, rental payment history, identity verification, income and employment verification, and criminal background data to landlords, property management companies, and others. A tenant screening report with negative information in it, such as prior housing eviction, could result in a rejected lease application, or it could result in approval of that application, but with tough conditions inserted into the lease agreement, such as a requirement that you pay months of additional rent in advance or a higher security deposit. I'm gonna let y'all sit on that for a second. So it says this can cause a person to get rejected a lease application, or you just have more in-depth terms that require you to have to pay a higher security deposit because of something that they found on your consumer report. Or you might have to pay many months more. And you're wondering why you had to pay X amount of months more. Well, it's something that they pulled from tenant screening. But if you had this frozen, depending on the entity they're pulling from, or you had certain things cleaned up, then they probably couldn't have discovered it. Not to say you want to, run from your responsibilities. I'm just saying that the information is out there, and a lot of times it can have a negative impact on you or someone you know. Most tenant screening companies won't have information on you unless you apply for rental housing or otherwise authorize a landlord or property manager to obtain a report from them. However, You should check in advance for errors in your credit report, since a credit report is a common component of tenant screening reports. Additionally, if you are rejected as a tenant for a residential property or conditionally accepted with certain adverse conditions, such as requiring a cosigner or a larger deposit, higher rent payment than other applicants, the landlord or management company must provide you with an adverse action notice that includes the names of the consumer reporting company it used to screen you. So that's important as well. If you found out that you ended up paying more in rent or more in deposit than somebody else, then they are required to provide you with that information to let you know, hey, where did they pull this information from? And then you'll know exactly directly where they got that information from. And it's a good chance that it may be somebody that's on this list. So you can contact the screeners to fact check your information and dispute suspected inaccuracies as needed. Errors in your tenant screening report shouldn't keep you from finding a place to call home. If a landlord refuses to rent to you or charges you more because of something in a background check, be sure to know your rights and protections. For more information on the tenant screening market, see the tenant background checks market report. So they're putting together some different links to connect the dots, but letting you know that this is what's happening. This is what's happening behind the scenes. So let's get into some of the entities that are doing the tenant screening. So AM Rent provides tenant screening services, including employment and income verification to property management companies and landlords. So there's their information. Of course, they give you the free report. Then you got Appfolio, provides tenant screening services, property management companies, landlords as well. They give you the free report. You got the Contemporary Information Corp. They give you the free report. There's their information as well. And all of you can get access to this if you need it. I can give you the link to it. It's one of them in the back office, but it's the 2020 one. This is the most recent, the 2024. So if you want this, it's a simple search, but I'll drop the link for convenience if needed when this call is over. Experian Rent Bureau. So even Experian is in the game of tenant screening. It collects rent payment history data from property owners, residential real estate manager, electronic rent payment services, and collection companies, and makes the information available to the multi-housing industry through tenant screening companies. Experian also includes some positive rent data it receives from Experian Rent Bureau in its standard credit reports. Positive rent data refers to payments that are paid as agreed between tenants and landlords. So this could benefit your Experian if you have good positive rent history, if they're also including that positivity on your report as well. So sometimes it could have its benefit depending on who it is and their overall involvement in the consumer report industry. Experian is big, so it could have a benefit. First Advantage Resident Solutions. This one also allows you to freeze your report. So the company will freeze your consumer report if you request it by calling or emailing that email below. But like I said, just because it's not listed in here that you can freeze it doesn't mean you shouldn't ask, because the answer is always no if you don't ask. RealPage, this is Leasing Desk. Basically, it provides consumer data and resident screening services to rental property owners and managers. RealPage has been acquired by Thoma Bravo LP. So some of these companies have changed names, but they still operate the same. RentGrow. Some of you may have heard of RentGrow. They're doing the same thing. Safe Rent Solutions. Safe Rent also allows you to freeze. So they do the same thing as well. Screening reports. TransUnion is involved in the rental screening solutions as well. Now, this is a new category. All of that was just tenant screening. This right here is check and bank account screening. Banks and credit unions use check and bank screening reports to help decide whether to offer you a checking account or to cash your checks. For example, you may have negative information in your report if you had a checking account before and you have an unpaid negative balance on that account, such as from an overdraft that you have not repaid, if the account was closed by the bank, or if you were suspected of fraud related to the account. If you have been a victim of bank account and or check writing fraud, or have had prior difficulties opening or closing a bank account, such as being denied an account, review your check and bank screening reports and dispute them if inaccurate. So if you can relate to this or someone can relate to this, boom, these are some of the entities that are holding on to that information. So you got Certegy Payment Solution. They collect check writing histories and provide check and ACH verification services for retail merchants and gaming establishments who accept checks as payment. You can get your free reports from them as well. You got the check system. This is a popular one. A lot of people know about the check system. If your check system information is not right, then sometimes you can't even set up an account with certain banks because the information in the check system, didn't turn out good. Let's just say that. But you can get the free report and score from them as well as freeze your report. Now, it says the company will provide you one free report every 12 months you request it. A free score will be provided upon request too. So they have their own score that you can get from them as well. Something to keep in mind. Cross-check. It provides check verification and guarantee service primarily for automotive sales and repair, building supply, home improvement, retail, medical, dental, and veterinarian industries as well. So this is more than just the banks. It's a little bit more. Early warning services. I've heard of this, and they are getting pretty big as well. I had a client who was denied for certain things due to this early warning service company. They assist financial institutions, check acceptance companies such as retail merchants, payment processors, and other financial entities in detecting and preventing fraud associated with bank accounts and payment transactions. Early warning is co-owned by Bank of America, Capital One, JP Chase, PNC Bank, Truist, US Bank, and Wells Fargo. So y'all know all of these names. And truth be told, the person who had issues with, a particular bank is one of the banks that's in this list. And it makes sense because they're co-owned by these companies. So the banks are involved in this data collection or this screening process because they have a vested interest. They need to know that they have a way to vet certain people before they set up certain accounts. So they all went in on this one. Bank of America, Capital One, JP, PNC, Truist, US Bank, and Wells Fargo. So you definitely, if you've had an issue in this area, earlywarning.com, you want to check that out. Check out the report, see if it may be some errors and inaccuracies. And this can cover a lot of bases because it is already co-owned by multiple banks, many of which you may have accounts with. Global Payments Check Services, same thing. Telecheck Services, same thing. But this right here assists with retailers, financial institutions, and other businesses in reducing fraud and other risks associated with accepting payments and opening accounts using check writing and other checking account related information. It's wholly owned subsidiary of Fiserv Inc. So just something to keep in mind. Personal property insurance. So it's another category. A+ property. So you get the point. This one is dealing with a fast check on your specialty insurance reporting when applying for insurance. So usually dealing with insurance of, many kinds, but the first one is talking about driver's history. So driver's history basically provides reports to help its insurance clients underwrite policies and investigate insurance claims. These reports contain information and data collected from open public sources and government agencies regarding driving violations issued to specific individuals. Clients that are employers or potential employers can also use these reports to help determine whether someone qualifies or remains qualified for a particular job. So it may be a job related to driving that, they have some employees, so they can use this to see if they qualify for one to get it, or if they remain qualified to keep the job. And if not, then they could lose their job. And this is a subsidiary of TransUnion. So it gets deep. It gets deep. A lot of times it's a main company, but then they have these other subsidiary companies that are doing some things that you may not know about. But now you do. Now you do. That's why you're here. Insurance Information Exchange collects and reports motor vehicle records, including traffic violation data to insurance providers and prospective employees. The company also provides employment and education verification services, government sanctions, searches, and criminal background checks. Insurance Information Exchange is a subsidiary of the Verisk Analytics Incorporated, etc. You get the point. So, like I said, it's loaded. LexisNexis, you're already familiar with that, but they also have a hand in the auto and property reports. So, of course, they share your information in other ways, but they're also in the screening of property and auto-related things. Just to kind of keep that in mind, it collects and reports up to 7 years of auto and personal property claims. It also provides insurance risk scores to help inform pricing and underwriting decisions for the insurance industry. Very important. Medical related. So the list gets deeper and deeper, and it's different categories. So you may not need to tap into all of these, but it might be some specifics that you're like, okay, it was some secondary entities in this area that Mr. Smith went over. Let me look at this list and see if it's something I can do on my end and address certain things that might not just be with the main three. It might be on another level. This one is medical. So fact check your medical specialty report before or when applying for private life, health, critical illness, long-term care, or disability income insurance. Generally, if you haven't applied for individual life or health insurance at an insurance company that uses services from the listed company, the company won't have a consumer report for you to request. So it's good to know before you get insurance sometimes, what they may have. MIB collects information about medical conditions, hazardous applications with your authorization. It reports this information to life and health insurance company to assess your risk and eligibility during the underwriting and individual life, health, disability income, critical illness, and long-term care insurance policies. Then you got Milliman, then they got low income and subprime screening. So they collect and provide information on payday loans. So if they know it's somebody who is in a low income or subprime lending, meaning they're going to end up getting a higher interest rate, they're going to be collecting information from payday loan companies, installment loans, auto loans, leasing, check cashing services, rent to own transactions, telecommunication account opening, financial services with an emphasis on the lower income and subprime consumer market segments. So it's an industry for everything. So these companies, they have a lot of information based on a person's habits. And you can, of course, get a free report and freeze that score. Then you got DataX. They do the same thing. They collect and provide consumer payment history on payday and installment loans, subprime, credit cards, and other specialty loans. It's owned by Equifax. So these companies, the main three, got their hands in other areas. On the front end, it's Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, but on the back end, they got so many different other roles that you need to be aware of. FactorTrust, they collect loan performance information on non-prime consumers to provide predictive credit data, analytics, and risk scoring solutions to short-term lenders, installment lenders, non-prime auto lenders, and leasing companies and other subprime credit providers. They're owned by TransUnion. FactorTrust is owned by TransUnion. So just like I stated, on the front end it's TransUnion, but on the back end they got their hands in other areas. Just be aware. These are the secrets that a lot of times you may not realize. It's keeping you from getting certain things or someone you know. Microbill collects recurring bill repayment data, such as monthly billing data from rent, utility, phone plans, car insurance, streaming media subscriptions, to generate consumer credit reports and risk scores for businesses that offer short-term rent-to-own, auto, retail, and consumer finance lending. So it's a lot of these entities that you may be involved with that may be submitting their information to these companies. Teletrack, that collects consumer information and provides data to payday lenders, rent-to-own businesses, furniture stores that offer financing. So no matter who you're doing business with, somebody is tracking that information. We covered a lot of entities. Supplementary reports, what do? The companies listed in this section sell data primarily to help entities manage credit and fraud risk. This information frequently supplements other data sets, such as the traditional credit data that the nationwide consumer reporting companies sell about you. So you got the ARS. This is one of the ones that we teach people to freeze. Advanced Resolution Services, so ARS. That's a common one. Innovis, LexisNexis. So these are the common ones. SageStream. Those are the main ones that are in the same business model that the main three are in. But as you can see, the main three are in other areas as well. Utilities. This is a big one for people. So National Consumer Telecom and Utilities Exchange. This consortium of member companies collects and shares information on new telecom and utility connect requests paid as agreed, past due accounts, payment histories, including delinquencies, charge-offs associated with telecommunications, pay TV, and utility, electric, gas, water services. Equifax Information Services is the contracted servicer that manages the NCTU database, and on its members' behalf, Equifax is not a member of the NCTUE. They're not a member, but they're the contracted servicer that manages this. So, in other words, they're partnered up with them in some way. Retail, the retail equation, monitors and reports to merchants, retail product, return and suspected exchange fraud and abuse. So if they see somebody who, constantly buys stuff, take something back, they got somebody who's collecting data to see if they're that type of person. Gaming. So even in the gaming world, this all apply. So I went through a lot and I kind of read and browsed over some, but I just want you to know there's several other consumer reporting entities out there that do different things that may have an impact on you and what you're able to get access to or not get access to, what you may get accepted for or denied for, or you or someone that you may know. So hopefully this information served you well. If y'all want access to this link, I'll show you how to get it. And then I'll drop it in the chat. Well, I'll drop the link in the chat if you want access to it. I'm going to end the recording, but I am going to open it up for questions. I just really wanted to go through with this thoroughly in a way that lets you know that it's a lot of things going on, a lot of moving pieces behind the scenes that you may not know about that could be helping or hurting your score. In this case, it's a lot of entities, and we went through several pages. You see, I'm still scrolling, but it's a lot of entities who are collecting information, selling your data, using their data, and doing different things that may put you in a particular situation. So let me get out of this real quick, stop the recording, and see if we have any questions.